When you first set up the multi-doser or the pH doser, you'll need to connect up your tubes. So one side goes to your bottle. Simply drill a hole in the lid of the bottle and stick the tube through. And the other side goes to the reservoir. Likewise with pump 2, one side is going to that other bottle down there. And the other side to the reservoir. And then pump 3, one side is going to this bottle here, and the other side to the reservoir. Pump 4, one side to that bottle, the other side to the reservoir. And same with these other pumps. 5, 6, and 7 are connected to your A, B, and flaring booster. And later in this video, I'll show you how to program each pump and how to select which pump for which job. For example, I'm running pH down and up on these two pumps, and the rest are running nutrients and additives. When you first power up the multi-doser by inserting the power jack, the light will blink blue to indicate the zone number. Just like with the reservoir controller, I showed you that in the other video, but I'll show you again. So it's off when I first power it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, then green. So 4 blue blinks means zone 4 or zone D. Same with this. When you first power it up, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then red blinks, meaning it's connecting to the reservoir controller. Now it's green, meaning it's connected. Now I'm going to show you how to set up the multi-doser. So how to set each pump. Each one is customizable. You can set them to run pH up, down, nutrients and additives. I'll show you how to set your dosing parameters for maintenance and prep, and how to calibrate each pump. Everything you need to know. So if you quick press menu and then go into auto doser menu and into multi-doser, then into reservoir maintenance, and here you can set your EC and pH. So press set to go in there. It's currently set at 2.50. Change it with the arrows. And to cancel, press menu. To set it, press set. And pH, same thing with the arrows. Set, and then set your range or hysteresis. And that's it. Press set to set it, menu to cancel. So if I go back in, you can see it's still there. 6.10 and 2.50. So let's go home, and you can see we're at 6.08, 2.51, very close to the set points. The sensors we use are extremely high quality, very reliable, very stable. Now let's go back into multi-doser, and I'll show you how to set your dosing parameters. So you've got maintenance and preparation. Let's go into maintenance, and I showed you this, the EC and pH targets, and now let's go down here. Maintenance dose ratios, pumps 1 to 4. And as you can see, pumps 1 and 2 are running pH down and up. And I told you that in one of the earlier videos, that pumps 1 and 2 are connected to these bottles here, which are running pH down and up. So let me set them all to nil, and now it's set. And then we'll go back in, and they're all on nil. So I can show you how to set these. So when you go forward, you go into dose ratio mode. So these are just ratios, just like your standard doser, and it'll pump out the nutrients at these ratios up to your EC set point, which is here, 2.5. So if you set these to ratios, it'll pump out until it gets to the EC target based on these ratios that you set. So I could set them like that, or whatever you want. So let's go back in, and I'll set it to where we should be. So pH down. Okay, so to go to pH down, just go back from nil. So for example, if I go forward, I go there, go back to nil, and if I keep going back, you go to pH up, then pH down, and that's it. pH up, down, so that's where it was. Next one, pH up. Next one, it was at 0.8, and this one was on 3.0. And that's it. That's set, and the same applies for pumps 5 to 8. So as you can see, I'm on 6, 6, and 7.5. 5, 6, and 7 are here, and they're running A and B standard nutrients and a flowering booster on pump 7. And I'll show you soon how I arrive at these numbers. So let's go into preparation. And as you can see, pumps 1 and 2 are not available because they're running pH down and up. Pump 3, 1.5 mils per liter. Change it with these arrows. Pump 4, 3 mils per liter. And I'll show you how you arrive at these numbers based on the instructions on the back of the bottles. So pump 4 is this one. It's connected to this, as you can see. That's CalMag. And it says use 1 mil per liter. But I've diluted all these to 1/3 strength. So multiply that by 3 and you get 3 mils per liter. And that's it. Simple as that. 3 mils per liter. And that's why I've chosen 3. You can change it with the arrows. And you should always dilute your nutrients to make sure they're nicely mixed, and also to keep the tubes from clogging. So 1/3 strength is a good number to use. So 1/3 strength simply means it's 1 part nutrients and 2 parts water. So 1/3 nutrients, 2/3 water. And that's it. Now if I go back and then go into pumps 5 to 8, you can see pumps 5, 6, and 7. 6, 6, and 7.5. So pumps 5 and 6 are running A and B nutrients, and the instructions say 2 mils per liter. 1/3 strength, so multiply by 3, that gives you 6. That's why pumps 5 and 6 are each on 6 mils per liter. Pump 7 is connected to a flowering booster. And the instructions there say 2.5 mils per liter. 1/3 strength, multiply by 3, that gives you 7.5. And that's it. 7.5. And of course pump A is on nil because nothing's connected. And that's it. As simple as that. Let's go down to initiate, calibrate, and I'll show you how to prime the pumps. When you first set up the multi-doser or the pH doser, you'll connect each pump up to a bottle. For example, that connects to that bottle there, and then the other side connects to the reservoir for each of these pumps. And when you first set it up, they won't be full of fluid. They'll be full of air. And you simply prime the pumps to bring the fluid up through the tubes and get them ready to calibrate. And you only need to calibrate when you first set it up, and then about once a year. Let's go down here to load prime. So let's go to pump 8. And the reason I choose pump 8 is because pump 8 is not being used. So if I press set, it'll start loading pump 8. And then when I let go, it'll stop. Now let's look at pump 8 as I do that. So I'll press it now, and it starts spinning. When I let go, it stops. Press it again, it starts. Let go, and it stops. And it'll keep spinning as long as you hold that. And you simply do that to bring the fluid up through the tubes. When it's full of fluid, you can then calibrate. There'll be a video coming very soon showing the calibration process, but for now I'll give you a quick rundown on the process. It's very simple. So the side that goes to the reservoir, so that would be going into the reservoir, simply bring that side into a measuring cup. For example, one like this. You've got some markers there for different levels. See, there's 10, 20, 30 mils. And when you've got that tube in there, come down here, press set, and you can choose the amount. So let's say 20. Set. And now it's ready to start calibrating. Then all you'll do, so let's assume the tube is in there from pump 8. So there'll be a tube going from there into the measuring cup. And on the other side, that would be going into the nutrient bottle, right? And you simply press start. It'll start filling up the measuring cup. When it gets to the level that you've chosen, so 20 mils in this case, once it gets to the 20 mil level, then simply press end cal, or you can press stop and then end cal. That's the whole process. It takes about 20 seconds per pump, and you only need to do that once a year. So if I press end cal now, without having done anything, it says invalid user inputs because we didn't actually calibrate it. And let's go back into multi-doser and back into initiate, calibrate. And I'll show you how to change the zones. So that means zone select and factory test. Let's go down there, into there, and manual zone select. That's how you change zones. So you can move to zone A, B, or C. And it's currently set to zone D. So this is currently zone D. And this is just the expansion. So whatever this is set to, this will also be. connects through one cable. And because it's set to zone D, you have the options of A, B, or C. And just know that in order for the multi-doser to work together with the reservoir controller, they must be on the same zone. So currently this is set to zone D, and this is set to zone D. If I were to shift the multi-doser across to a different zone, it would no longer be working with this unit. And that's all you do. Just hold set to move it across to the other zone, whatever zone you like. And anti-clog mode, if you turn that on, all that does is it will activate each pump for a few seconds, once per day, in order to minimize the risk of clogging. Now, I don't have it on because it's not necessary with these nutrients, but if you find that your nutrients are clogging up a bit, if there's a lot of sediment in them, you can turn that on and it will greatly minimize the risk of clogging. That's all that is. And the next thing I want to do is show you the manual dose option. So you can select the pump. So let's change it and go up and down like that. Pump 4, for example, and dose out whatever you want. So you can dose out this amount on any given pump. And that's it. Just press set to start the dose and menu to cancel. And that's pretty much it as far as the most important things you need to know. Now what I want to do is go through the manual operations. Remember that I told you that if you're in a semi-auto mode, you will need to command each process, such as drain the reservoir, fill the reservoir, prepare the reservoir, resume maintenance dosing. All those things you need to do to keep your grow going. In semi-auto, you will do them yourself. So, for example, in drain and fill menu, we can fill to the top, drain to the bottom, or drain and fill. So, for example, fill to top. To go all the way to the top, hold tog. But it says already full, so you can't do that. But if I was to go down here, if I hold tog, I can drain all the way to the bottom. But I won't do it. You just hold it for a few seconds, about 3 seconds, and it'll start draining. Same with drain and fill. If I hold tog, it'll drain all the way to the bottom, then fill all the way to the top. But if I press, let's go back up here, for example. If I press set instead of tog, I can set a duration. So I can drain for that long, or whatever you want. And press set to start it, and menu to cancel. Same with this. If I press set, I can drain for that long and then fill back to the top. However long you want. And then press set to start it, or menu to cancel. Very simple. And then once you've got a new reservoir prepared, or say refilled with fresh water, then you can prepare it with your nutrients. So let's go down to initiate calibrate and start prep dosage. Hold that for about 5 seconds, or about 2 seconds, and then tell it how much is currently in the reservoir. So it's an 80-liter container, as you saw before. But if you want, you can tell it that it's currently half full or whatever you want. And then press set and it'll start the prep based on your preparation parameters that I showed you earlier. And that's it. So it'll start dosing based on those rates, and then pumps 5 to 8 also. And once you start that, it'll start dosing. The other thing you need to know is how to start and stop maintenance dosing. For example, once you decide you want to start draining, then refilling it, then prepping it, it's a good idea to stop maintenance dosing, and that'll stop the multi-doser from trying to maintain the pH and EC set points. Because obviously you don't want it to be trying to maintain that while you're draining the reservoir out and then refilling it and doing all that. So you stop it there, just go down there, stop, and then once you're prepped and everything, you start it again. But remember, in full auto, all of this will happen completely by itself. So you don't need to stop and start maintenance dosing or anything. And that pretty much covers all the important operations for running in semi-auto. And I just want to talk about the dosing parameters again. Remember, in prep, let's look at 5 to 8. It's 6, 6 and 7.5. And let's look at the maintenance parameters. 5 to 8. It's also 6, 6 and 7.5. And that's a good rule of thumb to use, to just use the same numbers for the ratios. But you don't need to. If you wanted, you could halve all these numbers and it'll dose half as much at a time, but the ratio would be the same and it would still be dosing up to the same EC set point. So the result would be similar, but it would just be finer dosing because it would be doing less at a time. And you could also just fine tune some of these. Remember, pump 7 is running a flowering booster. So if you wanted, you could alter that number to add more or less during the maintenance. Let's look at pumps 1 to 4. See, you might notice that these don't match exactly. So pumps 3 and 4, let's look at the prep. See, it's 1.5 and 3. So I didn't match them exactly. 1.5 and 3, back into maintenance. See, it's 0.8 and 3. And the reason I did that is because pump 3 is running fulvic acid. And I don't want to add as much during the maintenance because the plants don't consume as much fulvic acid as they do the rest of the nutrients, such as pump 4, that's cow mag. And another thing I want to talk about, see here, it says max for the water level. So that means it's at the max level here for the top float. Remember that this is the high float and that's the low float. So it's at max. If it said med, meaning medium, it would be somewhere in between the high and the low level. So somewhere in that range. And if it said low, it would be at the low level. But when you're in run to waste mode, after you've fed out a full reservoir, it will predict the water flow, and instead of saying max, med, or low, it will tell you how many liters are left. And you might have noticed that in the diagram at the start and the end of the videos. But that's only in run to waste mode. And remember that to change the mode, hold menu to go into settings, go into modes, and that's your mode. So if you're in run to waste, for example, run to waste mode or run to waste auto, which is full auto, then that's when you would be able to see how many liters are left in the reservoir, or gallons if you're running in gallons. One more thing I want to show you is how to set your maintenance dose parameters to cycle mode. So let's go into auto doser menu, multi-doser, reservoir maintenance, dose ratios. Let's go into pumps 1 to 4. If I press toggle, it will go to nil. And remember, if I go back, then I can select pH up or down. And just note that if I select pH up, it'll clear the second one. See that? That way you're not running pH up on 2 different pumps. And then if I try to select pH on pump 2, I can only select pH down. See that? And remember, if you go up from nil, you go into ratio mode, where it doses out based on your ratios up to your EC set point. Press toggle to go back to nil. Now, if I press toggle again while I'm on nil, I go into cycle mode. For example, I could dose out 50 mils every 24 hours. Or you could go down to 1 hour or all the way up to 250 hours. So it'll simply dose out based on that cycle with no regard to the EC set point. And this is mainly used for aquaponics because many people like to dose iron based on a cycle. And to select that, press set, and then you can do the same on the next pump if you like. So press toggle to go to nil, press it again to go into cycle mode. And that's it. And to set all this, just press set. To cancel, press menu.